Hi, I'm John Hornick. Welcome to lesson 24 of Chef's Apprentice, learning to cook like a pro, one small plate at a time. This lesson is red miso roasted chicken on an asparagus raft. This small plate will impress your guest with both its appearance and its taste. You have done most of this before, but this dish combines two preparations, a variation of the marinated and roasted chicken of lesson 14 and the asparagus raft of lesson 18. This preparation reinforces the skills you learned in those lessons and helps to build your confidence for the harder dishes that are coming. Techniques today are chopping, marinating, seasoning, roasting chicken, roasting and peeling a bell pepper, keeping warm, deboning chicken thighs, plating, and garnishing. So let's start cooking. Well, let's talk about the mise en place, the ingredients for lesson 24, red miso roasted chicken on an asparagus raft. Of course, we're going to need chicken. The description calls for 3 chicken thighs, skin on and bone in. Why? More flavor. If you have the bone, you have the skin, you're going to have more flavor. We'll also need to have some olive oil. That'll be for brushing the pepper and the thighs. Then we're going to need the ingredients for the marinade. We'll need about a half a cup of red miso. I'm using the Shinshu Akamiso brand today, and you'll need about a half a cup of red miso. It doesn't have to be exact. You also need about a quarter cup of honey. Again, measurement doesn't have to be exact. You'll need about a quarter of a cup of rice vinegar. I'm using the Maroccan brand today. We'll also need about a quarter cup of mirin, and today I'm using the Eden brand of mirin. You need to have the juice of 1 lime, freshly squeezed. You need to have about 2 tablespoons of pretty finely chopped garlic. We'll also need to have a red bell pepper. Now, I'm only using half a red bell pepper today. I think that's really all you'll need for this preparation. Then you'll need to have some asparagus spears. The description calls for 18 asparagus spears, which is 3 per person. I'm only going to be making 3 portions today, so I have 9 asparagus spears here that have already been blanched and shocked in an ice bath. Okay, so they're already shocked and blanched. We'll also need kosher salt and our peppermill. Those are all the ingredients. I wanted to comment that the marinade today is similar to the marinade that we used in lesson 14, but it's a little bit different. We just switching things up a bit. And about the asparagus spears, we want them to be about the same length and about the same thickness, and to be relatively straight, and for the tips to be in good condition. All right, so that's all for the mise en place. We'll break now and come back and go over the equipment that we'll need for lesson 24. Well, let's go over our equipment. We'll need a juicer so that we can squeeze that juice out of 1 lime. We'll need a cutting board. We will need a chef's knife. We'll need a boning knife to remove the bones from the chicken toward the end, and a slicing knife to slice the chicken toward the end. We'll need a paring knife to make the asparagus rafts. We will need a brush to brush the chicken and the pepper. We're going to need a sizzle plate to roast the red pepper in the oven, and it will need to be olive oiled already, all right, so that the pepper doesn't stick to it. We're going to need a pan to roast the chicken on, and I'm just going to use another sizzle plate, which will be olive oiled again, so that the chicken doesn't stick to it. We need to have an ice bath that we'll plunge the asparagus into after they've been blanched. I've already done that, so this was the ice bath. You'll need one. You'll also need a bowl to mix the marinade in, and a couple of spoons to mix it. I'm going to use a wooden spoon and a serving tablespoon. You'll also need to have a paper bag to sweat the roasted peppers. Any paper bag will do, a lunch bag, this bag, I don't know where I got it, but I'm going to use that today. And then finally, we'll need to have a marinating bag to put the chicken in while it's marinating. I always use my Jokeri bag filler to do that. You don't have to have that, but it really comes in handy. And then I always put the marinating bag into a roasting pan just in case the bag leaks, so that when it goes in the fridge, it doesn't leak all over the fridge. All right, that's all the equipment that we'll need. Let's break now. We'll come back and we'll start cooking. we forgot one thing. We need a blanching pot that's already on the stove. Now, I've already blanched the asparagus, so we're not going to be doing that in this lesson, but you'll need to have a blanching pot to blanch that asparagus. All right, we'll be back in a moment to start cooking. All right, the first thing on our prep list is to mix the marinade. We're going to get all of this red miso out of the bowl and into the mixing bowl, adding the honey. Again, it's about a half a cup of red miso and about a quarter of a cup of honey, about a quarter of a cup of rice vinegar, about a quarter of a cup of mirin, juice of 1 lime, 2 finely chopped tablespoons of garlic. Right now, we're going to mix that up. Next, we're going to brush the red pepper, the bell pepper, with a little olive oil. Next, we're going to brush the chicken before we put it into the marinade. Now, I did this in a particular order because I'm using the same brush. If I had brushed the chicken first with this brush, then it would be contaminated, and I wouldn't want to use it on the asparagus. But since I brushed the asparagus first, on the red pepper. Since I brushed the red pepper first, I have no problem using that same brush on the chicken. Next, we're going to marinate the chicken. So first, we're going to take the bag and put the chicken pieces into the marinating bag. Then we're going to add the marinade, mix them around, seal it up. Okay, now we're going to put this into the refrigerator and marinate, allow them to marinate for at least 2 hours, could be up to 4 or 5 hours. All right, so let's check our prep list. We preheated the oven to 400 degrees about a half an hour ago, and I have brought the chicken pieces to room temperature also about a half an hour ago. Now it's time to season and roast both the chicken and the pepper. So first thing we're going to do is take the chicken out of the marinade and shake off any extra marinade. Leave it in the bag. Now we want to season the chicken. We're going to start with skin side up. We give a generous sprinkling of kosher salt, and then some cracked pepper. Flip them over. Now they're going to stay skin side down on this sizzle plate for most or possibly all of the roasting. So let's give them the same seasoning on the underside. Okay, now these are going to go into the oven, and they're probably going to take about 35 to 40 minutes. We're going to check them after 20, so we'll set our timer. We'll set a timer for 20 minutes. All right, now we're also going to season the pepper. We're going to put that into the oven. We'll also check that after 20 minutes, but that's going to take about 45 minutes. Well, now we're going to make the asparagus rafts. We've done this before. We're going to do it exactly the same way. The timer just went off. Let's check the chicken. It's looking good, but it doesn't have much caramelization yet, especially on the skin side, which is down. We're going to leave them skin side down so we get a nice caramelization on that side. We're going to put them in for 20 more minutes. Also, let's check the pepper. Pepper is starting to get blistered, but it still has a ways to go, so we're going to put that back in also for 20 more minutes, and we'll check them at that time. Alright, here's the chicken. It has been roasting skin side down for about 40 minutes. It looks perfect. It looks perfectly tender and cooked through. And the skin is nicely caramelized on the bottom. Okay, now what we're going to do is let this cool a little bit, and then we're going to do the next step. Well, here's our pepper. It's been 45 minutes. It looks nice and blistered. We're going to take it off of the sizzle plate and put it into the paper bag, seal up the bag, and let it steam for about 10 minutes. That will help to get the skin off. Okay, now let's check our pepper and see if we can peel it. It looks, yes, the skin is coming right off. Perfect, perfect. All right, now we're going to cut our pepper into some thin strips. All right, let's check our prep list. We seasoned and roasted the chicken skin side down for 40 minutes. We seasoned and roasted the pepper for 45 minutes. We steamed it in the bag. We peeled it. We sliced it. And now, and we also made the asparagus rafts. Now it's time to bone and slice the chicken. So to do that, we're going to need a boning knife. Turn these over and cut right along the top of the bone. These are rather hot. All right, so now we need to slice the chicken. Now remember, this is a small plate, so we are only going to be using half of a thigh on each of the asparagus rafts. All right, let's plate up the chicken slices. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have it partly on the raft so you can see the raft, and partly off the raft on the side. So we're just going to mound some chicken just off to the side of the asparagus raft. All right, now we want to garnish with some roasted red pepper. And then we want to give it a twist of pepper on the chicken, because we've already seasoned the raft. Okay, there we have it. Lesson 24, red miso roasted chicken on an asparagus raft. You can see photos of the finished dish at my Instagram, which is Chef's Apprentice Cook Like a Pro. Next up is going to be the pork tenderloin master recipe. Please remember to subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching.